After failing to inform police about the concerning behavior of the Tumbler Ridge shooter on ChatGPT, the CEO of OpenAI has agreed to personally apologize to the families in Tumbler Ridge and work to create some new regulatory standards. Corey Sidaway covering that story in studio tonight. Corey, this comes after a phone meeting between the CEO, the Premier, and the mayor of Tumbler Ridge.
Yeah, that's right. So far, OpenAI CEO Sam Altman hasn't spoken publicly on the company's connection to the Tumbler Ridge tragedy last month. But today, after a call with the Premier, an apology is coming. Last month, Jessie Van Rootselaar killed her mother and half-brother, 5 students, and 1 educational assistant before killing herself. 8 months prior, she'd been talking to ChatGPT about scenarios involving gun violence, according to a report from the Wall Street Journal. The interactions were flagged internally, reviewed by staff, but an OpenAI decided ultimately the conversations didn't meet their threshold of a credible or imminent threat and decided not to report to police. Instead, they banned her account, which Rootselaar bypassed by creating a second account. Since all this went public, OpenAI responded by strengthening their law enforcement referral criteria and promised that instead of reporting threats only to the FBI, they'd report Canadian concerns to the RCMP. But the Premier says that's not enough.
It's not acceptable that there are inconsistent standards between companies. It's not acceptable that it's up to the companies about whether or not to report, and that needs to change. We'll be pushing hard with the federal government for that to change, and there are a number of possible models. We don't prejudge any of them. But what I can tell you right now is that the status quo doesn't work, didn't work, and it very much presents the threat that it might fail again. And so change needs to be made, and quite urgently.
In their phone call, the Premier says Altman agreed to work with the province on realistic AI industry standards they could bring to Ottawa. Yesterday, Altman met virtually with the federal minister of AI, where he agreed to include Canadian experts in mental health and law into their office that assesses threats and decides whether or not to inform police. In the meantime, the police investigation continues with questions remaining around those guns. Why were they returned to the residence? And questions around BC's mental health system, something a coroner's inquest may answer, which has been called for and will take place sometime after police wrap their investigation.